It's in between those two, first and the last. So he stirred up trouble all over the temple, all over the kingdom. And at the end, he attempted to desecrate the temple, forgetting third. It's been several years now that I've seen this trouble. Yep, the next sentence. Ringleader of the Nazarenes, thank you. He's a ringleader of the Nazarenes. What's that mean? He was a Christian. He was a leader of the Christians. He was a leader of the way. All right? So these are the three accusations that Tertullus made against Paul. Okay? When he's done, Felix, in his pomp and ceremony, with his nose held high, turns to Paul. He doesn't even speak. He doesn't need to. He's so regal. He just nods. And Paul knows that these accusations are 1, unfounded, 2, unable to be substantiated, and 3, they're barely even worth hearing. So Paul makes his defense. He doesn't really need to make his defense because they really haven't accused him of anything that's worthy or provable of guilt. But he agrees, and he makes his defense, and he stands up, and he says, okay, you say that I'm making trouble in Jerusalem and all over the world. Nuh-uh. All he has to say was, nuh-uh. Because he goes on to say, where's your witnesses? Where's your witnesses? You know, if you had somebody who had witnessed me making trouble, where are they? Because you know that you need a witness for the crime. There's no evidence, no witnesses. Nuh-uh. My word against no one's. But he says, further, Felix, if you look into it, you'll see, I arrived in Jerusalem 12 days ago, 5 of which have been here. I was in Jerusalem all but a week. And he says, and you can check the temple records to know that I was in the temple at least 5 of those days, that I had checked in with the priests when I went in, that I was ceremonially clean. We have written records of my presence in the temple, and it was approved by the priests. I was ceremonially clean. So your second accusation about me trying, or your third, trying to defile the temple, well, we've got written proof. The Jews have written proof against their own accusation. But you don't have any witnesses of me stirring up trouble, and I wasn't, because I was there to worship. I brought gifts, alms for the poor, to help people that were hungry. And I brought an offering to worship and sacrifice in the temple. That was my purpose for being there. Even if you lift the littlest finger, Felix, and investigate this at all, this is what you're going to find out. Very obvious. Now, as far as that middle accusation, the one about being a leader in the Nazarene sect, I admit that. I am a part of what's called the Way. People who follow this guy named Jesus. But it's just a branch of Judaism. It's just a fulfillment of the Jewish prophets. He says, basically, I'm a continuation of Jewishness. He says, I believe in all the things that these guys who are standing before you today believe. Now, it's interesting because the high priest who had come this day was a Sadducee. He didn't believe in resurrection. So Paul had his chance here to kind of needle him a little bit. He said, I believe just like these guys do in the resurrection. And of course the high priest couldn't jump up and start shouting at this point, even though he'd want to desperately because he didn't believe in the resurrection. But if he did, that would just start a fight between the Jews and they had to present a unified front. They'd learned their lesson from in Jerusalem when Paul did the same thing, and they did start to fight, so he bit his tongue. It was probably pretty fun for Paul. That I believe just like these guys do in the resurrection. I would look right at the high priest. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a crime. And furthermore, as far as starting up riots, this claim of starting up riots all over the world, that's outside the jurisdiction of this court, frankly. This court has power for Israel only. If I started a riot in Ephesus, which I didn't, if there was a riot, I didn't start it. If I had, this court would have no jurisdiction to do anything anyway. So Paul made his defense against Tertullus and Felix. I mean, this was obvious. This was obvious. The verdict was innocent. I could even tell, standing there, that there was no case, there was no witnesses, yet they hadn't even accused him of a crime worthy of punishment. So what's Felix going to decide? I thought I knew. When he said, I will wait until Lysias comes, and then I will decide your case, I about fell over. Because I knew that he had a letter from Lysias saying that this guy was innocent, that he couldn't find anything guilty with him. So why is he saying he's going to wait for Lysias to come? You know what? He never called for Lysias. Lysias never came. So it was very obviously a political verdict. A tactical move on Felix's part. Because, the people that stood before him that were accusing Paul were powerful Jews in a Jewish nation over which Felix was ruling. And if he did something to make them really angry, he could face a lot of trouble. Eventually, he would face a lot of trouble by these same guys. But at this point, he makes a political decision and says, well, I can't decide guilty because he's obviously not guilty, and I can't decide innocent because if I decide innocent, I'm going to lose power and lose face. So, what shall I decide? I guess I'll decide to wait. How to make everybody angry and happy at the same time. I'll wait until Lysias gets here to decide, and then I'll never invite him. You can postpone this indefinitely. I'm a brilliant man. And that's what he did. And he called me over, and he said, Centurion, come over here and take Paul to the guest quarters, to the prison quarters. I want you to keep a man on him all day, every day. You're in charge of making sure that he is safe. His friends can care for his needs. He can have visits. He can have company. He can send letters. He has freedom of a Roman citizen. We're holding him on friendly terms. Take care of him. And I was put in charge of Paul for the next 2 years. Those Jews who had traveled 5 days and paid all those legal fees and hired journalists to come and argue against Paul, they were troubled by Paul's words. They were troubled by Paul's message. They were troubled by what I came to know, what you come to know as the gospel of Jesus Christ. They were troubled by the words of resurrection, and they were troubled by the words of judgment. They were troubled by the truth of Paul's teaching. And you know who else was troubled? Felix. Felix called for Paul. His wife Drusilla had come. And he and Drusilla, what a pair. Drusilla is as evil as her name sounds. And Felix is even worse. So Felix goes one day and he sees Drusilla, a married woman to another man, and he said, boy, she's hot. I gotta have her. But she's married, Felix. He says, I don't care. And so he moves her away and talks her into leaving her husband, divorcing her husband, and coming and marrying him. And she does, and becomes his third wife. Two very selfish people who live very self-centered lives, ignoring everybody else, ignoring the need of the community. Felix was known for his harsh treatment of the people over which he ruled, and so they didn't have much love for him. He mistreated them and abused them to his own advantage. And Drusilla was right there with him, cheering him on the whole way. What a pair. And then they invite Paul to come and speak. Every time they invite Paul, I had to go get him and bring him to them. And I would listen to him too, because I was in charge of him. And when he talked about righteousness, something of a foreign notion to them, when he talked about self-control, something that they had none of, they didn't like that. But when he talked about judgment, God's judgment, that troubled them. I watched as he described God's fiery judgment, the day to come. And as he described the lake of burning sulfur, lava, and the pain and the torment that people who don't follow Christ will be in, I watched